way this mob reacted to an incident that happened in a classroom when teacher showed images to illustrate a lesson on blasphemy. It's reprehensible in a free society that upholds the values of free speech. Uh, you have heard that faith leaders saying that like his days for teaching have gone by now. I mean, according to him, it's not acceptable to let him, teach kids in the school again, and they are demanding the teacher to be sacked. And this is a very clear example how these vigilante mob take over the narrative, the mainstream narrative about the Muslim community, and how they feel about certain things related to their religious belief and how they react to them. There are many people. Muslim communities are very diverse here in UK, and it's their right to be offended if something is not like in line with their religious belief, and they find it insulting. Then it's their right to be offended. But what they are not, nobody is allowed here to harass people for criticizing religion or even mocking religious belief, because there is no blasphemy law in the UK. So the mob outside the school, I wouldn't call it a protest, because that was a blatant manifestation of harassment. And we know that as a result, the suspended teacher, you have heard like the head teacher, he apologized unequivocally, condemning this incident that happened in the classroom, and suspended the teacher. I think that was a very knee-jerk response from the school admin, without going into the, you can say, deep into the investigation of what's happening and how they should be reacting. Unfortunately, we see that because of this situation, suspended teacher is in hiding with his family and under police protection, and that is a very, shocking outcome from this situation. And then the recent news is this, that the school admin and the concerned authorities, they want to calm this situation by subjecting the teacher to investigation. Now an independent investigation has been launched to investigate what kind of material was used in that classroom and into the conduct of the teacher. So it's a very unfortunate situation that the harassment and vigilantism we observed right outside the gates of the school. It's not a matter of concern for the concerned authorities and the teacher, who is already fearing for his life and for his family's life. They are living in hiding under police protection, and they are now subjected to an independent investigation. The teacher was right away suspended after this incident. The school admin apologized unequivocally, but there was all not enough to calm these people out,
right.
Standing outside the gates of the school. So that's very unfortunate situation.
So the response has been anything but calm. It has been militant. I mean, the school has apologized, they've suspended, and today, sadly, the teacher is in hiding. And the Muslims, we can be offended for several things, but we have to find progressive ways of dialoguing with stakeholders, right? Khadija, there's a way and there's a manner and there's a grace that is lost in this conversation.
Exactly. In the beginning, you just mentioned that Pakistan inherited, these blasphemy laws. I believe that the world has moved on. We have to move on. We cannot stick to these laws which are inhumane. We cannot punish people for criticizing religion, because we are living in a diverse society here in UK.
Right,
I'm not
right.
talking about Muslim majority country, because we know that we cannot compare UK with Muslim majority countries where there is no freedom of expression, no right to free speech. People are persecuted for criticizing state or religious authorities. So there is no comparison to
Yeah.
be made. But in UK, we have a diverse society. We have democratic law, and the society upholds the values of free speech. And what I see is that this whole narrative about being offended is being pushed by these faith leaders and so-called community leaders. And maybe there are people from Muslim communities as well. But we need to understand is that we want people or we want to enjoy the freedom to practice our beliefs, but we are not willing to return the same regard or respect for the tradition of the society we are a part of. So
Yeah.
that is not a one-way street. If we talk about multiculturalism
Yeah,
or
I'll get to
integrating,
multiculturalism, but here's what you said that hit me hard. We have to move on. But in the Muslim world, this is for Suleiman, blasphemy laws are fully enforced. In 2001, there was only one blasphemy trial in Pakistan, but now there are dozens each year. I sit at the roundtable discussions with the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. We are pushing for Pakistan to abolish their blasphemy laws, or in the absence, if they can't, at least amend the punishments. Let there be bail, don't imprison. Asia Bibi was imprisoned for 10 years because she supposedly said something. So there is a steady rise of attacks and murders of bloggers, writers in Bangladesh in the last 5 years, along with deadly mass protest in 2013, demanding the death penalty for blasphemy. Now, in reality, though, in Iran, there are many depictions of the Prophet Muhammad in the mosques. So, Suleiman, is blasphemy a modern Sunni taboo? What is happening here?
Well, this all this discussion is goes back, in my opinion, back to the books of tradition, theology books, fiqh books, jurisprudence, sunnah, and all these books that have been in existence for like 1400 years. This is nothing new. Like talking about blasphemy laws, where these Muslim brought these ideas from? Where did they learn these things from? They learned it from books. Fiqh books and Ibn Taymiyyah and other famous, well-known pillars of jurisprudence in Islam. They wrote that if somebody commits a blasphemy against God, against Allah, God, and they repent, yeah, yeah, they repent and they move on. But if you commit a sin, a blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you should be killed. This is the fiqh opinion that exists. You should be killed, even if you ask for repentance and you declare that you made a mistake and you declare that you did not mean it and you declare that you really did not, your purpose was not to insult the Prophet Muhammad. They have it in fiqh books that you will be killed. So these people that have protested, I honestly not only just blame them, but blame the books that taught them that theology, that built that faulty characteristic of their Islamic identity. All they are doing is just basically practicing what they have been taught. So the problem is to eliminate blasphemy laws. We need to eliminate books of hadith, books of fiqh, traditional theological writings that makes it the Islamic law, uh, gives it the justification to commit these kind of heinous, outrageous practices. Currently, Al Azhar University is one of the most prestigious Islamic universities in the world. It's been in existence for 1,100 years. It currently teaches an apostate. If somebody leaves Islam, the punishment is death. If you don't, so I mean, we can go on, but the core of this problem is the books that we inherited, and every Friday sermon in America, every Friday sermon in England, every Friday sermon in Germany, the Imam stands up and urges people to go back to the glorious days of the 7th, 8th, 9th century. And that's why you see these people are actually doing what they have been taught. The problem is, it's really, we have so twisted the theology of Islam, the fundamental values of Islam. We have twisted the Sunnah, the practices of the Prophet, to a point that we are really in need of laws, secular laws, European laws, other laws to fix our faults up. We are incapable of doing it ourselves in terms of niqab, in terms of hijab, in terms of blasphemy laws. We are not capable of changing. Right now in Pakistan, in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, all over the Muslim world, you cannot reform anymore. The reform right now, the religious institution is so entrenched. Any simple, moderate voice, people in Egypt, people throughout the Muslim world, scholars that have spoken in moderation, that they have been killed and assassinated. And all these people that you see demonstrating, asking for someone to resign because of insulting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of these people worship books, that these same books insult the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you read Sahih Bukhari, the most important book, has become the most important book in Islam. It attacks the character of the Prophet. It insults the Prophet. It accuses the Prophet of being trying to commit suicide, being a sexual, behaving in sexual, so many sexual ways. It accuses the Prophet of doing so many awful things. And yet, these people, they worship these books. And yet, these people stand every Friday encouraging their audience to practice the book of Sahih Bukhari and live according to the Sunnah as they see it, and not those same particular books of Sunnah defame the Prophet Muhammad every day.
I am deeply disturbed to hear what you say, Suleiman, because it is gloom and doom. Because we Muslims, we will never accept the reality, pleasant or unpleasant. Because I believe the sooner we take this opportunity to accept, then we can make positive change. And we have over and over again failed to do this. So are you saying today that the states, the foreign governments where these people live, secular states, they have to lead the way for us?
Yes, we are incapable of reforming our countries.
Wow.
We are in such the religious institutions. You got scholars in Saudi Arabia. You got scholars all over the world. You got in Pakistan, in Egypt, in many other countries. There are voices that have risen in the past trying to reform, just sort of a moderate understanding of the concept of reform. Just recently, a very active, long life fighter for women's rights, Egyptian lady, just passed away, fought for human rights, for women's rights. When she died, people gave sermons in the mosque celebrating her death. And all she wanted is equality between men and women. She was working against Nawal al-Saadawi. That's what I'm talking about. She was working against female genital mutilation. She was very, and people were celebrating her death. You got people got killed, got shot. Authors, writers killed for just speaking up against some simple misunderstanding of hadith or a verse in the Quran. So we do have a problem, and the best the chance, sometime, I used to say, thank God that our ancestor did not invade the entire continent of Europe. They left a few countries here and there for Muslim refugees to seek better life in, So, somebody said that and I copied that, but it just made so much sense that right now you see Muslims in America, in Europe, flourishing, becoming doctors, engineers, excelling, increasing their wealth, becoming important part of society, because this society, the Western society right now, offers the best example to the core values of Islam.
Right, right. See, I want to go to you, Khadija. You live in the UK. Integration and multiculturalism. It seems like this has failed. When immigrants come in, they bring with them their baggage, their laws, their tribal practices, and what has been taught to them. Okay, so has the government of the United Kingdom failed to integrate these people and tell them, hey, this is what is expected of you. This is civic duty. This is civic responsibility. In our country, these are the laws we obey. What is the chasm here? What is the divide here that the Muslims are still holding on to their tribal mentalities?
They're immigrants, refugees, immigrants, they move from one place to another. They go from one country to another. I would say UK is one of the most tolerant countries in Europe, and people enjoy their basic human rights here. As far as the process of integration is concerned, I would say that the culture of offense and fear has been promoted by the radical elements within the Muslim communities. The fear that you are losing your grip on your religious belief, on your cultural traditions, they are taking advantage of these fears and trying to dictate people to act in such aggressive and absurd ways. The authorities here in UK, I guess, they have gone too far to accommodate the sensibilities of religious minorities, especially I would say it's about Muslim communities, because there are laws, there are civic duties that everyone is obliged to follow and comply. But we see that when it comes to religious minorities, then they have been given certain privileges to practice their religion the way they want, and certain things and practices which are incompatible with human rights, they are still happening here in UK, in the United Kingdom. And here we have a problem when a certain section of the society is not following the laws of the land the same way the rest of the people are following, then obviously there would be problem and conflict. And we see that the scenes we observed outside the gates of Batley Grammar School, it's all this tells us a story, that how these radical elements within the Muslim community, they have become so powerful, emboldened, that they can assert the supremacy of their religious belief, and they can harass, like there were police. There was police. They were standing right there. They couldn't stop them. The apology made by the school admin was read by a police a policeman. I mean, it's really shocking to see that a group of people that claim to be a part of a minority group, they are asserting the supremacy of their religious belief in such aggressive way that one suspended teacher has to go into hiding, and the rest of the school admin like has been taken hostage.
Yeah.
And school is standing right outside the gates, and they are not doing anything. It's not allowed when they gathered outside the gate of the school. It wasn't allowed to be, in such numbers, like gathering anywhere in the country. But police couldn't do anything. The law didn't apply there. They couldn't tell them or convey this message that you are not allowed to do this. You are not allowed to harass people, or you are not allowed to gather like this because of the COVID rules and regulations. So we see that certain privileges have been given to a minority in the name of respecting their religious belief. And as a result, we see the vulnerable people, not only within the Muslim community, but also outside the Muslim community in the society, they suffer.
Yeah. So today we're talking about blasphemy and the issues evolving at Batley Grammar in Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I think it's so important that we continue to talk, because we have to democratize and popularize these ideas, because we don't hear many Muslims talking about it. And I also don't want to say, there are people like you, Khadija, who live in the United Kingdom, who's raising your voice, but who is crushed and pushed down every time. But let us not forget that it is one rotten apple that can spoil the whole barrel. And that is happening for us Muslims every time. This issue of blasphemy, it is too much. Yes, Suleiman.
It needs to be said and made clear that those few people do not represent us, do not absolutely represent the overwhelming Muslim majority. They just, these same people, they're full of hate. They hate other Muslims too. They hate other country. They're just divided. Life to them is basically, it's either you are exactly like us or you are our enemy. They treat you like an enemy, even if you're a Muslim. That you do, probably, if a woman does not wear hijab, they hate her too. If a Muslim man that is not growing a beard, they hate him too. So they basically want to have a secular society that paid heavily to get to where it is now. To They want to change that society to accommodate them and be like them. So basically, these people, we have them all over the world, and we reject them. The majority of Muslims reject these uh, strict interpretation, extremist interpretation of an extremist version of Islam, and I urge every single Muslim to voice their opinion against these people. These people are not defending the Prophet Muhammad. These people are defaming the message of the Prophet Muhammad.
So on that note, Suleiman, I have read that, correct me, you were a former imam. You even say Muslims don't go to the mosque anymore because there's nothing progressive, nothing intellectual, nothing spiritual that is being taught in our mosques these days. Everything is a hadith and a fiqh. So I have heard that there's only one verse in the Quran that says, if you hear God's word being mocked, don't sit with those people. So what do you think? I mean, you are a student and a teacher of this of Islam.
Yeah, no, Islam. If you read the Quran in its entirety, it teaches people to disagree with respect, to disagree with honor. If somebody insulting, or or maybe somebody is being intoxicated, or somebody is doing some lewd act or anything, you don't attack them, you don't impose on them your will. Prophet Muhammad's example in Medina, when he went from Mecca to Medina, and he had all these diverse cultures and political opinions and religious opinions, and people prayed, people did not pray, people drank, people. He was basically set his example, if you go into details, set an example on how tolerant he was, how allowing people to be who they are, to practice their faith as they see it. It is not our role to lead people into heaven or to prevent them from going to hell. That is an individual obligation between you and your creator. So there is nothing in Islam that teaches you how to use violence, that impose your will on others. It happened. Our history is full of Muslim conquering other countries, uh, doing some horrible things to other countries. But that's not Islam. That were Muslims, people that used Islam for their political, for to gain wealth, to gain territory, to be more powerful. Islam itself does not teach that at all, and there are plenty of evidence in the Quran and in the true authentic examples of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What these people are doing is completely un-Islamic.
So, and now we are targeting the young Muslim youth who are taught this. Why is nobody talking about this hadith and fiqh to the children, that these were recorded 200, 300 years after the Prophet? And this is
Yeah,
a serious omission, right, Suleiman?
the traditions is very strong. The control of the religious establishment is controlling the narrative, is controlling what is the definition of Islam and who is a Muslim and who is not a Muslim. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of people throughout the world, throughout history, have challenged this theology and had stood up for the spiritual meaning of Islam.
Mhm.
And even right now, we celebrate Ibn Sina, we celebrate all these Muslim scholars, scientists that in chemistry, in math, in biology, in optic lenses and astronomy. And Muslims don't know every single one of those scientists that we celebrate and point and tell the West, look how glorious Islam brought you sciences. Every single one of them was accused of being a blasphemous by Muslim scholars of their time. Every single one of them was accused and punished and isolated because they are bringing fresh ideas, new ideas. So right now we have a challenge between to challenge those books of tradition, to challenge old theology, to challenge people that wants to take us back to the 7th century, to the 8th century. We must insist that we are part, we have a common value with the rest of the humanity. They are our brothers, they are our sisters. Christianity, Judaism are part of us. We are part of them. And heaven is not exclusive to any one religion, and that is the teaching that we must be teaching. And that's the teaching of the Quran. But the problem is this religion has been hijacked, has been twisted, and the battle is going on between people that want to use their think, to think, use their brain, and people wants you to be a blind follower of a theology.
I would like to add
Yes.
something like when we're talking about indoctrinating or brainwashing or radicalizing youth with these toxic ideas, I would say where are the moderate voices? We always say majority of Muslims, they reject these kind of ideas, but where are they? They are not in the mainstream discourse. Whenever people like Soraya, you, Suleiman, and like we are pushed back.
There
We
are,
are not supported from within the community. Nobody is standing by us and telling the world that this group of people that is vocal, that is aggressive, that is violent, they are
I
not
tell you why.
represented.
And I tell you why. I tell you.
I just
People,
want to add one more thing, Suleiman, so
sure,
that you can
sure,
explain the
sure,
whole scenario. Here
sure.
in UK, when this incident happened, then people like from Muslim community, politicians, well-known people, journalists, they didn't say anything to condemn the mob mentality outside the gates of the school. They literally condemned the act that allegedly happened in a classroom. And they are all trying to calm the situation, not by condemning the mob mentality of vigilantes that we saw outside the gates of the school. They are condemning, or they are trying to make it turn it into an issue against the whole Muslim community, calling it anti-Muslim bigotry or Islamophobia. They are saying that this is like Saida Warsi, I would say, Baroness Saida Warsi. What did she say? She is more concerned about the bullying of Muslim children in the school, and they are called terrorists. You tell me that a mob from within the Muslim community, without any resistance, gathered outside the gates of the school, aggressively chants the religious slogans, and then the school admin had to release an apology, a public apology, and then the group, the ringleader of that group says that this apology is not acceptable. You have to amend it according to what we say. They dictate even the apology to the school admin. Now you tell me, who is responsible for that bullying thing? I'm not saying that there are no problems. In every society, we have problem of racism, discrimination, and all sorts of problems. And UK is not different from other societies. It's a human society. We have these problems here. But you tell me, when this kind of spectacle becomes a routine thing from a group of fundamentalists from within a minority, then you tell me how we are going to, remove these stereotypes from Muslim women, from Muslim children, from Muslim men. People would be looking at us through the prism of what's happening, outside the gates of the schools. And this is not happening like in a vacuum. It has already happened in the past. In 2018, a school head teacher, she banned hijab for girls under 8-year-olds. And she said that it's for their physical health and to just protect them from being alienated from the rest of the kids. So she did it. What happened then? Nobody supported that teacher, not the concerned authorities, not the Muslim communities. Nobody supported her. She received 500 abusive emails on daily basis. She was likened with Hitler. She was called pedophile. You tell me. And then she had to, publicly apologize. And the ban was reversed with immediate effect. You tell me that who is doing the bullying? Who is harassing? And these
selective outrage of the Muslim community is not acceptable.
How we are going to defend, these kind of attitudes? But unabashedly, I would say, the people who are well known in the Muslim community, in the politics, in journalism, they are not condemning these kind of elements.
And I tell you why.
Just saying that they don't represent us, it doesn't change anything.
Suleiman, you want to tell us why?
You come out to counter these narratives. You voice your concerns. You cannot change the reality saying this, that they don't represent us. Sorry, Suleiman, you said so brilliant stuff. But I believe that when you say that they don't represent us, it's not enough. We need to confront these people. We
Yeah,
need
No,
let's
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I am doing my little bit of confronting these people on some of the
we are doing
comments.
it on individual basis.
Yeah,
We are
but
doing it.
it is actually there are this is a very the to answer why is very complicated. But I tell you one of the most important uh, part of this discussion should be the mosque. Who control the mosques? Who control the mosques in Europe and in the United States, in Canada, Australia, and the Western countries? These mosques, they have become an extension, a political arm to a group in Pakistan, a group in Bangladesh, a group in Egypt, a group in Morocco. All these, like if you're part of Hizb ut-Tahrir, okay, and you have a mosque controlled by Hizb ut-Tahrir, all you're going to hear is the propaganda and the philosophy and the goals and the objective of Hizb ut-Tahrir. And if you're just a grocery store owner, happen to be next to that mosque, and all you want to do is just go there, get your Friday Jummah over with, and you get bombarded by that political ideology wrapped as Islam, and then they got you. They're hijacking people and taking control of people thinking. The average Muslims. You got the Muslim Brotherhoods doing the same thing. You got the Jama'at Tablighi. They got the same thing. So the problem is we do not have independent mosques anymore. Very, very few independent mosques. I ran a mosque. I operated a mosque. And why I talk about this, because I know from experience what I went through fighting these groups that wanted to control the Friday sermon. And I stood against them, and I know the defamation. I know the harassment. I know the insult. I know the price that I paid to stand up and keep our mosque open. So we need, if we don't change the affiliation of the mosque, make it a property of an enlightened community that talks about their day-to-day community issues like daughters or kids or gambling or sexual or whatever. All you go to these mosques are talking. If you go to a mosque dominated by a Pakistani, you're going to hear a sermon about Pakistan. Or you go a mosque that controlled by Palestinian, you're going to be listening about Jerusalem, Israel, Palestine. You're going to go to a mosque about brotherhood. All you're going to talk about is how awful the opposition. So the mosques have been taken, hijacked from the Muslim community, and they control, the mosque controls the narrative,
beautiful.
control the
Mm,
message.
beautiful.
That's one thing. The other thing, the journalist. There is, like in London, you have many Arab newspaper controlled by Saudi Arabia, controlled by government, controlled the many journalists on the payroll of governments. And those governments, they need the backing of their religious establishments. So the religious establishments in Egypt is going to back the government, and the government is going to protect the religious establishment. And the media is being paid by the government. So the very few limited, beautiful voices out there are getting through, thank God, because of YouTube. Thank God because of social media. And that's it. And there is nothing out there, a platform like a mega microphone, like Al Jazeera, like Al Hayat newspaper or any newspaper or any TV channel, Al Hurra TV channel, which is an American in Arabic, has beautiful programs about religion. There is a movement in Egypt. There is a movement right now in Tunisia. There are, I see a light at the end of the tunnel, but the resistance from the religious establishment is very strong because they control the Friday sermon. On any given Friday, 500 mosques throughout the UK could say your name, Khadija Khan, is a blasphemous, and you got millions of people accusing you being a blasphemy without even meeting you. And
Right.
that's the problem.
Right.
Exactly.
So I want to quickly go. We are out of time, Khadija. I want to ask you about the women, the British women who are Muslim, and I'll come to Suleiman with the last question about the patriarchy issue. So, you know, in 2016, Theresa May launched a government inquiry into Sharia courts. You know, over 80 courts, and women have been harassed. And I know personally because I appeared at the House of Commons to talk about one law in the United Kingdom. So the Casey review by Dame Casey, Louis Casey into integration claimed that Sharia Council supported the values of extremists. It condoned wife beating, ignored marital rape, and allowed forced marriages. Okay, so when we see this extremist behavior, like in front of Batley Gamma and all other, in France, we saw that. So there's lower levels of female engagement. And I also see the women from these households, they're not employed effectively. They must be lacking, are they lacking in the language and at least lack an awareness of civil rights in Muslim communities? Are these women not doing what they are supposed to do? Are they involved and engaged? And is there hope for the Muslim community with the engagement of women?
There are women who are, fighting back, who are resisting religious misogyny here in UK. They are from Muslim background. They are of Muslim heritage. They can be ex-Muslim. They can be humanist. They can be secularist. They can be practicing Muslim women or women from LGBTQ community. The problem is that these women are not given a platform, as Suleiman just said. That they are not the face of the Muslim community. Whenever the mainstream media here in UK or the concerned authorities, they want to get engaged in a conversation about Muslim communities or anything related to the religion, they want to have women on the front with hijab, with dupatta. Yeah. And the one who is not wearing it, she's not Muslim, she's not Muslim enough, or she's not representative. She's not representing Muslim community as a whole. So that is the problem. I will give you a very recent example of this, whole situation. The Muslim Council of Britain, they have elected a female leader recently, very recently, and it was all, going very well and congratulating. Wow, that's so great! After so many years of male dominance, after all, finally they have one female leader. I mean, that was considered a very big achievement.
2021.
Literally, for me, it was like, what? One female leader, but still it was like seeing, wow, here in the UK. And she was on a BBC show, and she was asked a very simple question, that how many female imams are there in the UK? The host seemed to be, focusing on how women are treated in within Muslim communities and in Islam in general. And she couldn't answer this simple question. She refused to answer straight away. And the moment the interview was finished, then there was an uproar, like, you have discriminated against Muslim women.
For just that question.
Exactly. This is Islamophobia. And then an organized campaign was launched to get that host suspended. And then there was a petition launched, and so many people, including Baroness Saida Warsi and other politicians and journalists here in the UK, they signed the petition to, they wanted BBC to apologize for asking a question, apparently. So this is what happened, when you question this religious misogyny that is prevalent in the Muslim communities. And those women we see on the front, they are towing the line. They're not talking about women's rights. They are
No.
telling you what is Islam about.
They're given the boundaries, they're given the parameters. This is how you're
Exactly.
going to
They will
operate.
tell you
Yes.
that
Yeah.
how Islam is practiced in Muslim communities. I mean, there was the same, celebration we saw when the first Sharia court female judge was appointed here in the UK. She did nothing. She endorsed polygamy, and whatever happens in Sharia court, I have never seen any comment from her condemning what's happening in Sharia courts with these vulnerable women who have to go through hell to get divorce, to get the custody of children. They are discriminated. They are forced to, talk to the abusive husbands. And they are told that, okay, you can go back to your husband. He will not do, the kind of conversation take place in our societies that, okay, give him another chance. You have children. You have to consider this and that. So this is what is happening. I would say that concerned authorities, UK authorities, they have a vital role to play in this whole situation. We want, like you, Suleiman, like you and me, we want to have a very positive and moderate and progressive image from the Muslim community coming out, in the social discourse here in the Western society. But we want to voice our concern, but we need platforms.
Yeah.
We cannot do it without it.
I think people like you and I, we lack power and we need to build it. And that
Yes,
is for us
exactly.
coming together with people like us who think and want to work with us to expand
Exactly.
that base. Yes.
Exactly. And this
on that note, I
stereotype that
will say,
women who are not wearing hijab and not wearing dupatta, they cannot represent a community, or who are progressive in their views. I mean, if we see women, even those who are not wearing any hijab or dupatta in UK politics or in journalism or in other areas who are talking about these issues concerning to the communities, we see that they are not progressive in their approach
right.
to deal
So,
with these kind of issues.
Yeah. In the interest of time, I'm going to go to this particular little statement. When Kamala Harris was elected the vice president in the United States, a group of elders, women, wrote to her a beautiful letter. Because patriarchy shows up in many forms. In the United USA, we took so long to have a women leader who is not the president, but at least the vice president. They said, be who you are. Do not bend to what the men want you to do. So I think what is lacking is one of those, that kind of women who will just be fearless and bold. And as Melinda Gates said, raise their voices, because this has been stifled. So on that note, I want to go to Suleiman. Suleiman, in our community, men are seen as the natural leaders and the spiritual authorities. Okay. Women have no role. Men behave as if they are the recipients and the women are the benefactors. So how can we break this cycle of the supremacy of patriarchy? How can
Well, we have to convince women to stop listening to men. You, the problem is, you know, uh, the mullah and the male domination of this religion and other religions is basically women believe that stuff themselves. There are a lot of women, they fight you on the issue of niqab or burqa, or there are many women, they believe the narrative that they hear from this imam because they think that imam is delivering a divine message on behalf of God, and they're pious, and they want to listen, they want to be obedient. So we have to convince these women that what you're hearing from that man is basically his opinion is not God's opinion, and you are not uh, are not any lower or any lesser than a man. And that's why I do full-heartedly support women mosques, women imam, open a mosque, be a women leader of that mosque, and deliver the message and let the men hear what you have to say and bring other women and build the community and stand up for your faith. And Islam, yes, it is from after the death of the Prophet Muhammad till now, it's been only male opinion, male books, and they shaped Islam to be anti-women. Some of the fiqh opinions that you read, do you know currently in Iraq, the highest authority, religious authority in Islam in Iraq is Imam Sistani. Imam Sistani have a fatwa, also with Imam Khomeini, also with other imams, that allows you to marry a 1 year old, a female 1 year old, and you can consummate the marriage when she's fat enough. And that's basically the constitution of Iraq, because the constitution of Iraq has a clause that everything has to adhere to the Islamic interpretation of these imams. So we have a major problem. And how do we dig ourselves out of that hole? Is we have to challenge these men, dead men and alive men and old books, and dismantle the 14th century of twisted theology. And that is not easy. But the good news is there are people out there, like many scholars, that have spoken out, that have written books, that have laid the foundation to build on for a true version of Islam, better than the one that we have right now.
Okay, thank you, Suleiman. So in conclusion, I think we have to ponder some very important questions. But one of the fundamental first question we have to ask is, are we going to protect the Saudi brand of fundamentalist Salafi Sunni Islam? We have done that for years, and now it is time for us to really ask that question. And ask the second question is, what does it mean to be a Muslim, a human being in the 21st century? And we need free thinkers, and we need women who are going to be leaders. And as an activist, I live, listen, and learn from the women on the ground. And what the stories I hear are appalling. And the scholars who sit in their lofty, well-funded boardrooms, they write paper after paper, and they write beautiful theology. They compare. They have no idea what's going on the ground. And we have fallen to this rut, this low today, because there has been no.
And that's why, Soraya, so many young people leave in the religion.
Yes.
So many young people leave in religion, all of it together, and chart in their own course in life on morality, justice, peace, equality, and they're living their life because, you know what, they can't find. Religion has complicated their lives, and they're finding answer in living in a secular society. We still look, it's the 21st century, and we still debate whether music is halal or haram. And this is how sad our situation is.
Yes. We want technology. We want everything from the West, but we will debate the haram issues. So my urgent call is the scholars, the so-called scholars, the religious actors, the well-funded theologians from the Middle East and the Gulf states and Egypt and all of that. Please listen to the activists on the ground. We have stories to tell you. The marginalization, the victimization, the stigmatization of women cannot be continued anymore if we are going to progress as a society. And last word to you, Khadija. You had something to say.
Yes, I would say, like, Muslim communities, they enjoy more freedoms, more rights, more liberties here in the secular societies than they have in Muslim majority countries. In Sunni majority states, Shias are persecuted. In Shia majority states, Sunnis are persecuted. In Sunni Shia majority state, Ahmadis are persecuted. I mean, they don't have these freedoms, free speech, or the right to voice their concern in Muslim majority countries. But here we have it in the Western societies. So we need to cherish these values. We need to uphold these values. We need to contribute, and there are many people who are contributing. This radical element has to be removed from the front side of the Muslim community. We need to bring forward those people who are progressive in their approach and who embrace the free democratic values of this, Western societies, because this is the only way we can move forward. If you want to go back, then go back and see what's happening in the Muslim majority countries, because they are mostly
they won't go back. None of them will go back. They will complain about
in their mindset or in their practicing belief, they want to adhere to the archaic traditions and old scriptures, or as you said, the books.
They talk about establishing Khilafah and Islamic State and stuff. Well, Tora Bora is an open space. Go live there if that's what you want. They won't go.
I want to say this one more thing, that we had a generation grew up with these radical ideas here in the Western society, and that many of them ended up joining ISIS.
Yeah.
They went to Syria to join ISIS, leaving behind all these comforts, all these liberties, all these freedoms. So we cannot afford to have another generation growing up with these radical ideas. Yep. So the moderate voices from within the Muslim community, I would say they need to show their resilience. They need to confront ideologically. This is the war of ideas. They need to come out strongly, robustly, and reclaim the reputation and the place in the Western society.
We need to focus on challenging the books of hadith, the books of fiqh, the traditional books that brought us into this disaster. It is 1400 and some years of twisted theology that brought us into the mess that we are in right now.
Yeah. To all the young women and girls, I say out there, question every man who's trying to preach and teach you what you should do and not follow what he should be following. They talk about the Sunnah, they talk about women behaving and respecting the Sunnah. I always say, where is the man who has married a widow with 4 children? Bring him to me. Don't preach the Sunnah until you have followed what the Prophet has done. So this is a great conversation. I hope we'll come together, not to talk about what is wrong, but talk about something that's right, that's happening. And we call on the United Kingdom, the government, to take strict action, because we love the UK, we love Islam, we love our Muslim community, and we have all got work to do. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Suleiman. Thank you, Khadija, for your beautiful comments and contributions. And to all those who are listening. Khuda Hafiz. Bye.
Take care.
Take care.